Hey, what's up, guys? Dr. John here. I'm with Travis and Nina, and we're happy to have this time with you in our Garden Medical Spa podcast. We're going to come up with a trendy name sometime soon.
You know,
just
I was just thinking the same thing, Dr. John. I was like, we're episode 2 into this,
Yeah.
and I'm waiting for the jingle. I'm waiting for some kind of catchy name. It's not quite there yet, but I don't want to rush into it.
As I was introducing it, I'm like, what was the name of this podcast? Anyway, so we're going to call it the Garden Medical Spa podcast for now, and we'll come up with a trendy name later. So today's podcast is going to kind of revolve around the genesis of the Garden Medical Spa, right? And a lot of people ask us about this. A lot of people ask us, how did this start? And, how did Travis join? And we have one of our newest members, Nina. And, like what makes it, like, how did this kind of amazing place kind of take hold of South Jersey and beyond now? So I thought that we'd talk about that. I thought that's a good topic.
Yeah, I think it's good. I think in the sea of aesthetics, right? So many different medical spas popping up around everyone and all over the country.
Sure.
What are the authentic ones? Like, what sets us apart, right? Like, what are your foundational pillars, right? Like, what do you guys believe in at the Garden, right? And I see an opportunity with this podcast to let the consumer, to let our patients maybe see another side of us that maybe they don't see on the day-to-day when they're in getting treatment. So I think starting with high-level stuff, like, how did the Garden start, right? I mean, Dr. John, as a pediatrician, like, why aesthetics, right? I think these are things that we love to answer. And I think there's beauty in your journey. I think there's beauty in mine. I think there's beauty. All of our providers have this really cool, unique characteristic about them that really, I think, sets our team apart completely. But I kind of want to start at the top.
Yeah, let's start at the top. So I'll take it through. It's a pretty interesting one. So let's go back to 2014.
Let's do it.
2014, I'm 2 years into practicing with my father, and my dad's a pediatrician. He's a neonatologist and pediatrician. And
Dr. J,
Dr. J, yes, a wonderful guy and super instrumental, wonderful mentor. So I'm the oldest son, and there was a lot of as the oldest son in a family like mine. There was expectations, right? And I loved peds. It was awesome. I still love peds. Fantastic specialty. Anyway, so 2012, I'm done residency. I joined my father, seeing lots of patients, doing a lot of good stuff, man. We're really having a fun time. We are expanding. We just bought a building in Voorhees that was just gigantic building right on 73, and really wasn't much to it. So we had to fix it up a ton. Mm-hmm. Two years in, 2014, my brother matches in a really, really competitive residency, plastic surgery residency, 6-year program.
Shout out Dr. Michael.
Yeah, shout out Dr. Michael. He's got, I think, the highest board score in his Drexel class. Super smart kid, and a great guy. And he matched at UC Davis. Mm-hmm. And just so everybody knows, typically for plastic surgery, you have to do general surgery residency, and then you do a plastic surgery fellowship. And that it's very rare to have a full plastic surgery residency and that kind of thing. Anyway, so he gets that. So early on in his residency, I think probably a month in, he calls me up and he says, "Hey, we have to start a med spa." And I'm like, "Okay, I don't know anything about med spas." I had one kid at the time. My oldest son Johnny was just born, and I had time, and I was young. I was in my early 30s, and a lot of energy. And we just bought this building. Yeah. So I said, all right, whatever. I have a couple hours at lunch. I have an hour at lunch. Let's see. Maybe that would work out. Let's see what happens. So he would come home every once in a while, and he would tell me when he's coming home, literally for a day. And he would bring some stuff with him, or we'd order some tox and some filler and stuff. And I'd recruit people that we knew, mostly women.
Garden OGs.
Yeah, the Garden OGs. And there were a lot of my friends or some moms that trusted me because I took care of their kids, right? So there was a lot of trust there. And I would tell them, "Hey, listen, I'm getting into this thing. My brother's going to be here. He's a plastic surgery resident. He knows his stuff. He's learning." So I was kind of learning along with him. Mm-hmm. And we would spend the whole day on Saturdays. And oh my gosh, we would do 12 ladies and just full faces. And he would show me stuff he was learning. And then at the time, I had a really good friend of ours, and you know her very well, Lisa Scafidi.
Yes.
And Lisa, shout out to her because she's been so instrumental in the early days of the Garden and even today. And she was a rep for Galderma. And she got me some really wonderful trainers. One of them, Dr. Perchik, the head of plastics at at Penn, and she came down and was like a trainer for me. So it was like I was getting my brother. I had Dr. Project. I had all these cool people. I was doing these like cadaver courses, and it was interesting. It was art. You know, it was so different than what I was doing every single day, and it was fun because I was kind of like I walked into something. Like my dad built up this wonderful practice that I kind of walked into. And we're a big fan, you know, we're a tight knit family, and I wanted to, I saw that there was opportunity there for like some maybe paying it forward. I don't know. It was like an older brother thing, right? I was like, let me maybe start building something up, maybe, you know, like and it would be cool for Michael to have something, you know, as part of his, you know, when he comes out of his residency, right? No, so that was definitely a motivating factor, and it was fun, man. It was interesting. So. That takes us to, and so it started building up. And
well,
people,
I think, just to appreciate you sharing the insight, right? I mean, it's a beautiful story. You know, you can still sense that family aspect of it, right? You know, I think one of the things that I tease out of that, right? And I think it's even to this day, is everything that you did then, right? And everything that we do now at the Garden isn't driven by monetary gain. You know, everything that you did then was just truly out of interest and enjoyment without very little outside pressure. And I think there's beauty in the fact where you say, you know, you walked into a pretty established, successful medical practice with your father. Good. I think created the most opportune environment to grow the right way.
Yeah.
Right. And that's through training and learning without being forced and worried about, hey, having to make money.
Yeah.
You know?
That was the beautiful thing. That's what I said. I used to make a joke. I think, you know, I would say, I haven't made these in a while, but I would say, you know, I don't need the med spa. Like I don't need the med spa to pay my mortgage. Like I don't need to make, you know, so for a long time there was no,
we're making money.
Yeah. So yeah, exactly. So we grew like organically. At that time too, Instagram was kind of coming up and like Google reviews. And I understood, well, as a young doctor, you really have to, and I looked young. I still think I look young. So, but now as a young guy, I had to prove quickly to parents when I was a pediatrician, when I'm pediatrics, I would have to prove to parents that I knew my stuff. And I realized that same sort of thing in the aesthetic environment where I had to show that I was very good and proficient, and I only did things that worked, and I only provided things that worked. There was no nonsense, and that's where that no fluff, just results thing came from. That saying came from, and that's our coined, our registered saying.
Yeah, it's not even. It's it's grown into just a lifestyle. It's everything we incorporate. Yeah. I mean, it's there's a lot behind that. No fluff, just results, backed by science, and I think our patients are definitely the beneficiaries of that.
But I think my favorite story is your story, though.
Yeah,
yeah. So I just want to just preface this really quickly. Travis walked in. So at the time, I was taking Drexel PA students, and I heard about Travis. I had one student before Travis, and I heard about Travis. I was getting a real smart guy coming in that knew his stuff, and he was a really great person. And I was super excited, you know? So, and that was Travis. Yeah. So he comes in, and I remember meeting you. It was up in Marlton, I think, right?
Yeah, it was first day was Marlton Peds office.
That's right. That's right. And we were just getting going with the med spa. The med spa was just like really starting to pick up, right? And here comes Travis. So Travis, tell us a little bit about that.
I mean, that was, I think, what was that, rotation 2, right? So still really early in my clinical aspect of my PA journey at Drexel, and well beyond PA. We could spend hours talking about where I was in life, and definitely was a long way around. Military, did some interesting things in the United States military, the Air Force specifically, that kind of took me around the world. So I entered that phase of medicine a little later in life, right? And I think, thank goodness, right? Long way around, but for the right reasons. But long story short, second rotation in clinical, I landed, first rotation was general surgery, quickly followed up by pediatrics with Dr. John, right? In Marlton, New Jersey, which, you walk into, I was in a pretty high acuity general surgery setting. So, coming off a real high OR operative schedule where I'm in the OR, scrubbing in, scrubbing out, I think I could perform cardiac surgery, 6 weeks after being exposed to, the scrub sink. But
for sure.
Yeah, so Dr. John walks in, I'm like, man, this good-looking dude. Rico Suave, he's driving his Mercedes. I'm like, pediatrics must be all right here in the old pediatric world. So long story short, very welcoming. well respected amongst the staff. It was really cool. So as we started seeing patients, Dr. John, say I was first day one, right? And, he gave me the lowdown on what he expected, and I was excited and eager to kind of, I've always been a pleaser, so I was trying to set the bar high. And Dr. John says, hey, I'm going to run out lunch real quick, right? So why don't you study, do your thing? So I'm, cracking the books, and Dr. John's gone, maybe an hour and a half, 2 hours. Comes back, and he goes, hey, check this out. And he shows me his picture on his phone. Beautiful set of lips, right? Lips by Dr. John. I'm like, what is that? And where did you go for lunch? Well, Dr. John at that time didn't really have full-time committed office hours at the med spa. So any break that he had in his day, right?
It was lunchtime, 2 hours.
He'd shoot down to the med spa and crank out a little aesthetics. And for those patients who are, privileged to be treated by Dr. John, know he loves spending every single second he has with you.
I do.
So his peds nurses were like, "Where is Dr. John?"
I would be driving. From,
executing these well. And I'm like, "What is this?" And he goes, "Oh, this is lip filler." And that was really my first exposure.
That's funny.
To aesthetics. And I think, fast forward, that was just something I continued to see. And, Dr. John would, painted this beautiful, cool world of what, medical aesthetics is.
Well, and you, I said, Travis, what do you want to be when you grow up? Right. I said that.
What do you want to be when you grow up?
I said, what do you want to be when you grow up, Travis? And I think you said to me, you said, oh, Dr. John, I want to do cardiothoracic surgery. Right. And I said, that sounds good, Travis. But what about this?
Yeah. Well, and that was it, right? I spent a little time at Penn doing some cardiac surgery trials and kind of ran that department for a little bit. So, I thought that was my pathway, academic hospital. And for those who are in medicine or even, in a PA/NP role, know that like academic hospitals in the surgery realm is, a death sentence to permanent residency, like truly, so I didn't know any better. It was high level, academic center was really cool. And John kind of floated the idea of medical aesthetics. And, my initial response was like, I don't know if I could do lip filler all day, coming from the military, this and that.
That's right.
And it's not that. And it wasn't that. And that's when, Q, a little further into my rotation, that I got the invite to kind of come spend a couple hours at the medical spa with yourself and Dr. Michael, kind of after hours stuff. And my eyes just lit up at that day. I had a little bit of an engineering background from the Air Force. So like, once I saw the opportunity and the art behind it and the autonomy and the potential, man, that was cool. That was it. The next thing my trajectory completely shifted over to, hey, when can I start in medical aesthetics?
And that was, we were like a couple of years out from Michael joining, right? He was almost done his residency at that point. So there was like a big buzz and the place was starting to get really built up. We didn't have any other locations yet. We were kind of sticking to
it was Voorhees. Just Voorhees, and it was in its infancy. It wasn't even truly like you said. I mean, those who know the practice now, it was not that by any means. But like I said, there was opportunities to just see one or two clients and really spend time and learn and discuss, and it was no pressure. I
think that's when you you get introduced to lasers too. Well,
it was the first time. And, Q, back down to Dr. Michael's experience, I think one of the things that allowed us to really use his education as a springboard was, he spent some time at the Laser and Light Institute out there in California and at UC Davis. And, these newer plastic surgeons who are going through training are no longer just cut scalpel guys, right? They're definitely incorporating a lot more energy into their practices. And the good ones are a fusion of all of that. And Michael was kind of a hybrid, so he was able to expose myself and you to energy a little bit more, and that's when my mind just took off.
And that's when we got introduced to Luminous, and what was so cool was, he was in the mecca of aesthetics and plastic surgery out in California, so he's introduced to all these different companies, and he was able to tease out and distill down the best companies, right? And I think that's where we got hooked up with Luminous. And I'll never forget, I went to some training thing in Florida, and these training things was really great. They introduced you all these different companies, and I remember we had a Luminous laser at the time, the M22, and I knew what it felt like, and what like the build quality, and so these other laser companies were down there and kind of showing us these junky pieces, and I'm like, look, I can't believe people buy these. It's like, looks like a Fisher Price toy or something like that, Anyway, I thought that was pretty funny, but it was cool. It was just really good timing. Really, the right people in the right place during that time, all of us, and just hungry, interested, curious young men that were,
and there's a little bit of fate, there's a little bit of luck, there's a little bit of opportunity, there's a little bit of hard work. I mean, a lot of hard work, a lot of work ethic. I mean, I guess what we're getting at with the Garden Med Spa is the way it was built is a solid foundation. I think that's important to establish is the Garden Med Spa is built on a very solid foundation of what matters.
That's
and
right.
we talked about, these pillars, and that's, priority number one, earning the trust of our patients and maintaining the trust of our patients.
That's right.
And this no fluff just results, everything that we incorporate being backed by science and proven technology. I was on a webinar this evening actually speaking on luminous equipment. And, anytime we're evaluating something to bring on to our patients, we spend a lot of time investigating and ensuring the science holds up to what the claim is. And we've seen that time and time again with everything we've done. And I think our clients and, we don't take that lightly.
No, exactly. Really, we're in the community and we care about our reputation. Right?
Yeah.
So,
really cool.
And that, I think, the results, the reviews, all the stuff, right? It just, it shows all that.
Yeah. And one of the things, and Nina's about to chime in here in a second too, because I think this is a big part of why she sought out the Garden Medical Spa as an employer. But, one of the things that we're always, that infancy stage of the Garden Medical Spa, when we had a little bit of technology and we were constantly pursuing, what's next and great. And, it's great to have good technology. The people here are fantastic, having the right minds in the right place at the right time. And I think that was a little bit of the fate aspect of it.
That's right.
Michael being very busy in plastic surgery afforded me the opportunity to just get in the weeds with these lasers, and I started putting things together and infusing different technologies and creating, what are now world-known protocols.
You were curious. Your curiosity led to these so many interesting combinations of things, and I think it's really, I mean, it's really amazing. People don't realize that there was no protocols.
Yeah,
there was
no smooth glow, right? There was no combination therapies. There was people who were maybe doing them, but they weren't getting behind them and developing consistent results. That started to come out, I mean, for lack of a better term, I mean, it changed and reshaped multimodality treatments for the industry. And this was not that long ago. I'll relieve a little fact here that not many people know is, when I lecture and I speak to, Ivy League trained physicians from all over the world who've been practicing medicine, dermatology, plastic surgery for 20, 30, 40 years, right? And when I sit up on stage and they learn more about me, I mean, I graduated PA school in 2020.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I'm saying? Yeah. I mean, we are in 2025. Right? And some people may take that as lack of experience, but that's the commitment to the craft that I have, right? In the industry, but it's also everything that was given to me and the opportunities that were given to me at the Garden Medical Spa to allow me to become that.
Well, when you were a student, though, I mean, you did the extra rotations. You know what I mean? So we were doing it. You were.
I was able to manipulate that rotation schedule a little bit to allow me to spend a lot of time.
We spent a lot of time together. It was a wonderful
shout out
thing.
to Drexel.
Yeah, shout out to Drexel. Now Drexel. I'll tell you something. We hired a bunch of people from that cohort, that class, and at that time, unfortunately, the people move away and stuff, but our core, I mean, think about that, right? If you didn't end up in that office, right? That's pretty cool.
So there's a lot of in between from then and to now, but I guess a quick little fast forward snapshot. Where's the Garden Medical Spa at today, right? Like what is, for the people who don't know the Garden Medical Spa, like where are we today? What's our location size? What's Michael doing in Florida? Let's give them a little snapshot to where we're at.
Yeah, we're all over the place. So in New Jersey, obviously, we have 5 locations now. Our original location is in Voorhees. It's probably our largest location. The second location, believe it or not, was in Sewell. It was just too good of a location. The whole building and everything it was too good to pass up. Our third location, which is a really wonderful one, is Collingswood, and then we saw some opportunity down the shore in Northfield. And that's a really, I enjoy. I'm there on Tuesdays. Baby. It's a great place, really great place, really great community too. And our newest, and I think everybody's so excited about, is our Mullica Hill office. Yeah, that's an awesome place too. So now outside New Jersey, my brother's running all of the Florida places, and I think he's got 3 or 4.
Yeah, well, he's got he's got his big one down in Tampa. With it's doing most of his surgical interventions.
It's a combination. He has a surgical
plastic surgery
center.
med spa. Yeah.
It's a really beautiful surgical.
Center, I mean, all the locations down there. North Palm Beach office, which is
that's awesome place.
Beautiful.
Yeah.
You know, that's doing a lot of stuff. He does a little surgery there, and then he's got a couple in Clearwater now that are more like integrated day wellness massage. I mean, he's doing a lot of cool stuff down there. Man. So I think in total, the Garden Medical Spa brand has 9 locations throughout New Jersey and Southern Florida, and you know, with growth mindset. And I think, you know, one of the things, these locations, you know, you may hear of medical spas, you know, creating more locations, but what makes us, I think, really stand out is our footprint at each of these locations can execute just about the same level of service throughout all.
That's right.
Right? Like, it's not just we have this one monster location in Voorhees that we can do cool stuff in, and the rest are just sprinkling toxin facials. That's not us. You know, we have 30 plus different pieces of luminous laser and energy-based equipment spread out through these 9 offices, right? We can do this almost everything at every office outside of some minor surgical things that I'm doing. And it's like ablative laser that we're doing in Voorhees. Outside of that,
everything's the same.
It's a full menu at all of our options, which is really unique.
That is super unique. And I think even better is that in the end, we're not owned by private equity.
Yeah.
We're not, we're
still one of the good guys, you know?
Yeah. Right. And I mean, we're still a small bit. I mean, even though we have all these locations, we're still a small business, right? We're still small business mindset, care about the community. We're involved in the communities that we're part of. And we stand by, you know, we're all about the no fluff, just results, right? And that's what matters.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's exciting to see, you know, like I said, Garden Med Spa 2014, right? You know, 10 years later, here we are, a little over 10 years, and you know, success is written all over our blueprint.
Where to next? Well,
I think where to next, right, is definitely the question. I think
I have ideas.
Oh, Nina's got ideas, and I'm going to have Nina chime in now. We're taking over the East Coast. We're about to do something huge in the fall, which really is going to show, I think, our East Coast footprint. Yeah. I think I'm excited to kind of get that going, so I'll tease that a little bit.
Yep.
But Nina, now that we've fast forwarded to from then to now, and there's a lot of in between there that is exciting to talk about, but we don't want to bore viewers here.
I was so excited. So when Nina applied, I was really excited because I mean, she was a fantastic candidate, and she came in, and I remember seeing her for the first time. I said, this girl's got the look. She's got the look. And then when we spoke to her, I was like, she definitely has the charisma.
Yeah.
And you know, she has. I'm sure we can get her the skill. You know, because we know how to do that.
Yeah.
And she was bright-eyed, and she was like, you know, ready to roll, baby.
Got the package.
And you know what was interesting, and I learned this after the fact, but Nina's getting married soon, which is a really wonderful thing. Yeah. And in Italy, and she is a wealth of knowledge and has developed her own brand behind this whole the bridal journey, I guess, right? Yeah. And what's really cool is we tasked her with developing a bridal program, really taking over our bridal boot camp, you can say, you know, that we do, and she's done a wonderful job with it.
Yeah, I mean, you know, shout out to Nina for sure. I mean, being the whole package of smarts, beauties, brains. I mean, you name it, she has it, and you know, she hasn't once again been in the industry long, right? But you've put in the work, and I mean, in the short duration of your training and onboarding, you know, we hear nothing but rave reviews from Nina. So I'm glad we have her. That's where the Garden Med Spa, I think, once again, pulls away from the competition is the people, you know, yes, technology that's backed by science, but, you know, these A-team players are looking to bust into this industry, which can be difficult to get into.
For sure.
Right? First off, but finding a place, and I'm going to have Nina kind of talk about this, that, you know, promotes their growth, ambition, goals, is hard to find. And that's how you get good quality talent, is you got to be able to offer that. And I think the Garden Med Spa does, but without putting words in your mouth, Nina, you know, why the Garden? Like, why did you submit that resume to the Garden?
Because I was crying going to work at the hospital every single day. I mean, I guess we can go to like way before I was even a nurse. I was like in high school, and I was playing lacrosse. I committed to a school. I had no idea what I wanted to do. I was like 16, and my sister was like, well, I'm going to be a nurse practitioner, and I'm going to do injectables or plastic surgery or dermatology. And I was like, sounds great. Sign me up. I had no idea what I wanted to do. we know I like the fashion world and all of that. And my mom was like, you're not really going to make any money doing that. I was like, that's true.
That's funny.
If I go into the medical field, I sound smart. I am smart, so I could do it.
Yeah.
And it sounds like I could do some really cool stuff. That's not just like the gruesome, like grunt work that I was doing. So I went to nursing school and I got my nursing degree in a year. I have my undergrad in biology as well. So 2 undergrad degrees and then my master's in nursing. And while I was in NP school, I was working as a nurse in the hospital. And I'm very grateful for my time there. I learned a crap ton all about continuing education and all of that. And, you know, I always said I would never work med surg. When I actually got one of my clinical rotations and they told me I was going to be on med surg, I immediately called my sister and I said, who do they think they are? I'm not working on a hospital floor. I was freaking out because I was scared.
Yeah, of course.
But it was fine. I spent 2 years there. Didn't love it. I knew it wasn't for me. I knew I had, you know, this NP degree in my near future. And so when I finally was getting ready to apply for jobs, actually, like a couple months before that, I was like so ready to leave the hospital. I was looking for aesthetic jobs just as a nurse, and everywhere was like, no, you need 2 years experience minimum everywhere. I was like, okay, cool. And then perfect timing. I like actually was ready to commit to a job as an NP. I went on Indeed and I saw you guys and I was like, yeah, like I'm absolutely applying. Doesn't give me, like it didn't say I needed like a year minimum. Yeah. So I applied, got the interview. And it was funny, at the time I was sending my sister Indeed jobs as well. Yeah. Because she wanted to do the same thing. And I didn't send her this application. And I'm so happy.
That's a funny story, and we're going to get to that.
That's a really good one. I like that.
I was like, I had a good feeling. I was like, you know, because she already had experience. So I was like, screw that. This is for me.
Yeah, absolutely.
So I came in for the interview, and that's kind of it. I looked up you guys and I saw the No Fluff Just Results, and that obviously, as we know, really resonated with me.
One thing that we liked is, and Travis can attest to this, is that I always enjoyed having a blank canvas, and I think that it's the best way to develop a young, PA, NP, physician, whatever. It's the best way. And if you don't have any bad habits yet.
Yeah, and I think once again, I mean, people get it wrong there because, yes, there's a lot to learn, right? And we're committed to teaching, and we love educating. It's truly one of my passions, But it's about the personality, right? And there's this thing that we refer to often during interviews or even looking for people and providers, staff members in general. We call it the X factor, right? And as cliche as that sounds, it requires this perfect fusion of medical knowledge and aptitude. I don't want to use the word sales, but the ability to confidently talk to consumers about making substantial purchasing, right? Like these things aren't cheap, right? So confidence is important, right? So it's difficult to find that left-sided and right-sided brain fusion where you can use both of these things, right? So I think what we look for is that more, right? We dig out that more because we know that we can educate.
Well, when it comes the beautiful thing is, and this actually is something that I always said to myself. I said, as long as we provide services that are fantastic and work and are good for people, that truly help people, then no matter who is doing it, that's on the staff, they'll be able to sell it. They'll be able to talk about it with confidence.
The results sell themselves.
Yeah, because they know they're not doing BS.
Well, in the interview, they asked, they're like, how do you feel about sales? And like my dad has done sales his entire life. He can never have another job. I never thought I could, I never saw myself doing sales. And when they asked me that, at first I was like, oh shit, I don't know if I can curse on this.
Family show, Nina.
But then I talked about, I remember the motto, no fluff, just results. And I said, it's not really about selling. It's just about educating. Yeah. And if you guys have products that I believe in that I would do on myself, then all I'm doing is just talking about
it's just natural. You don't have to even think about it. Yep.
Yeah. No doubt. Yeah, I think that's 100% true. And you had a lot of the good package that we were looking for, and we're motivated and eager. And, I think, like it said, your onboarding speaks for itself. You spent some time with me and Dr. John, and you were a quick learner and picked things up and did some self-study. And, once we released you to the wild, you confidently executed.
Should we talk about that? Like how we develop these young staff?
I think we're all in this developmental phase, but I think definitely without giving away the secret sauce, I think we can definitely talk a little bit about, or you can even talk about, actually, maybe that's better for you to kind of talk about your journey, right? Because we see it one way, and I'm happy to kind of, talk about it, but that's kind of hear like, what did you feel, right? And I'm hoping you touch on a little bit of like feeling like it was a second language, and maybe you felt a little like you were isolated at one point. That's all intentional. It's all intentional. That's but from you're definitely the lifeguards aren't far. But I want to hear like what was your experience with the garden onboarding process, and how well and adequately prepared do you feel to like still educate? And once again, we're always still learning, right?
Yeah,
and I told you that when we were going through the training process. But yeah, let's talk a little bit briefly about that.
So I had some knowledge about toxin fillers already in the past. I didn't know how to inject filler. That absolutely terrified me. I never wanted to inject filler in my life. I knew nothing about the lasers. So when it came to tox, I feel like I spent a lot of my time, like the injectables, with Dr. John, and I really learned a lot. And you guys are both very confident, so it kind of eased my mind and my stress. Like everything was done very effortlessly and like casually. At least it came off that way. So that was kind of reassuring to me. I was like, all right, it's like it doesn't have to be that deep, And then from the laser perspective, that I feel like I had to do a little more studying on. Like with the injectables, I would go home and like study facial anatomy. The lasers, I was like looking at PowerPoints. It was all gibberish. Didn't make any sense to me. Right. I was like texting Maddie, texting my sister who wasn't even here yet. She was like, I don't know. And then once I started seeing clients, that was like what, 3 months of kind of
roughly.
that,
and everyone's a little bit different, right? On the timeline. But and normally the energy stuff, just because it takes a little bit of time to start deciphering, that language of laser.
Yeah.
Can be anywhere between 2 to 6 months. Truly, I've had some client or some.
Yeah, I mean, I'm still learning. When I went out on my own, I feel like from the injectable standpoint, I felt pretty confident. I mean, there's still questions I have that you're going to be hearing from me.
Of course.
I sometimes panic text you, and I'm like in a client room, and sometimes like the machine's beeping, and I'm like, what does this mean? What does this mean?
Yeah. And those delayed responses are a bit intentional.
Yeah, I know.
I need you to simmer a little bit. And
because like last week, the Zimmer was like making a noise, and I was like, "What is this?" And then literally, like there was a piece of paper on the Zimmer that said exactly what it was.
That's that little self troubleshooting.
You know what makes me happy about that, Nina, as you're like talking about this, is the fact that you're comfortable with like reaching out to Travis, reach out to me,
yeah, for sure,
like messaging, our other colleagues, and I think that's so. As we've been building, Travis and I, when we've been developing this team, our current team, I think we, as the years have gone on and different people we've interacted with and different people we've had as part of this place, we've learned a lot, right? We've learned about how to build a team, and I've definitely have learned a lot, and I think we've been very careful about that build, and it's like been beautiful with how we've developed.
Yeah, which is tough to do because once again, a lot of people enter this industry with the mindset that they're going to make a lot of money, and you can, no doubt, right? But there's a right way of doing it, and there's plenty for everybody. And if you get the people who are very concerned about their solo performance and their individual gain, it can really be like a dry rot in the practice. Sure. It's a cancer for sure. So it's important that, and Dr. John and I work hard at trying to create an environment to where that's not the primary focus, right? And there's so much different opportunities for people to gain success, and it's not just monetary. I mean, it's personal success. It's the opportunity to, be viewed amongst your peers as, a thought leader. I mean, there's beauty and career satisfaction in it. At the end of the day, regardless of the specialty of medicine that you pursue or practice, we're all kind of in it for the same thing, internally. We all are here for the greater good of humankind, right? Whatever that may be. And as bad of a name as the aesthetic industry can sometimes have, right? And you see one side of it. That's not the true side. I mean, you've been with me. You've treated patients where we've really changed their life to the point where they're in tears because we've dramatically changed their confidence, right, or their physical appearance.
I mean, it's actually it's truly amazing.
Yeah, it's
really
beautiful, right? And not everyone gets to see that side of the industry. Yeah. So we talk about it with our clients in consultations, but that's a long way around saying like it's beautiful to see that people are always growing. It's right back at Dr. John, vice versa. We can sometimes confer with each other about certain things. I reach out to Michael sometimes, and I think the more transparent and honest we are about like this collaborative approach, because not one mind knows everything, but when you put all these minds together, forget about it, right? It's untouchable, man. And we have that, right?
Yeah.
And I think that this comprehensive approach that we've developed, when as we've been developing and like adding things into the medical spa and like pursuing new technologies and things to offer to our clientele, we've always had this thing in the back of our heads where we want to have a comprehensive approach. We want to hit all the facets of the aging process to really like be that one-stop shop, right? And to be experts at it, not just like mediocre or whatever, but would be experts at it. And that's because of our I think our curiosity and our methodology towards that, we've been able to accomplish that. And that's been very, very cool,
Yeah, I mean, the vision is, to be able to walk, and once again, consultation today, to walk with patients through their entire aging journey, right? I mean, when I have a patient that walks into the Garden Medical Spa, regardless of where they're at in the aging process, my true goal and ambition is to provide that client with a service and a plan for today, tomorrow, and the future, right? And I plan and hope to see that client at the Garden Medical Spa for the next 30 years, right? And we'll have something to offer them with whatever facet of aging that they're going through, or whatever aesthetic concern, or their family members, or their daughters, or their sons, right? Yeah. And that's the beautiful thing about establishing a well-known foundational medical spa that can do that, right? Not many medical spas can do that, and they're okay with seeing clients come and go. That's not our model. Our model is to be able to capture a large pool of patients and offer them services for the next 50 years of their aging process of life, and their families and loved ones, right?
And to be part of that, that journey, like to be, the relationship. I think I love that. That's why I love pediatrics, to be honest. Yeah, because I'm a pretty important part, especially in the first year of life.
The most important part of people's lives. Oh, my children to me. You know what I'm saying? And to be a part of that.
Exactly. And I think that's honestly like how I learned to build trust. It takes a lot of trust to allow someone to put a needle or put a crazy energy device on you or in you, whatever, right? And it's like that I think it also, how can I put this? In pediatrics, they're trusting me to make decisions for the most important
possession.
Exactly. And I think that as weird as that sounds, because my brother first came to me, he was like, we're going to start a med spa. I was like, how the hell am I going to do? I was like, I'm not sure. I'm like, I don't know anything about this. And it was so interesting because the same type of process of that trust building that I would do naturally in pediatrics was transferred, man. And as soon as I realized that, I was like, oh my God, this is unbelievable. It's like, it's actually similar.
When I look at it, it's one of the most organic, transfers of like, you're with, to your point, you nail on everything when it comes to like being able to confidently obtain someone's trust.
Yeah.
And with, even so, like my children to me are even more important than, you know what I'm saying? Like, you've obtained an outstanding relationship with those clients, but you're also meeting with mothers in one of their most vulnerable states, right? Postpartum women, and the hormonal changes and things that they're going through. A pediatrician who can speak both languages, I think, is the ultimate pathway.
It's an interesting thing. Yeah,
like once again, it's one of those opportunities meets, fate / like I said, it just organically worked out for the right.
And it was interesting because it's art, right? It's in the end, it's a different part of your brain when you're evaluating someone, and medicine is there's beauty in medicine, of course, like regular medicine, I'm saying, but this has a huge amount of art to it and sculpting, I guess.
Hey, one of the coolest, and I know we're going off on a little tangent here, so we'll try to reel it back in, everybody, but one of the cool exercises we did at Drexel is they took us to an art museum, right? And everyone's like, why are we going to art museum today? and they had us in groups, and each group sat in front of just various paintings, right? And they ask you, like, what do you see, right? Like, list 5 things you see.
Yeah.
You know, and I'm in a group of 7 people, and like, okay, I'm like, I see that, I see this, I see, whatever.
Yeah.
And we compared notes, and almost all of us had a different set of what we saw. Like, no one had the same notes, right?
Wow.
And what that opened my eyes up to is just like, everyone sees things a little bit differently, and the importance of collaborative relationships, right? Like, so like you share your notes with me, Nina, you know what I'm saying? Like, so, and we do that at the garden so well. We're never alone in a room. We either have a medical esthetician with us or another provider. Yeah. You know what I'm saying? So we're getting this like multi-view vantage point that I think, that we talk about and discuss the patient with. And then all of a sudden, we've got this beautiful treatment
cool.
plan.
And it's what's right for it's what's right for the client.
Yeah. And I think that makes them trust you more too. Like when they see you asking, like, well, what do you think? Like other people's opinions. It's like, like you're like,
it's real.
You feel comfortable being vulnerable in front of me.
Yeah.
Like, so I trust you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I dig that. Yeah. And I think that's what makes us popular. When you come to us, people know that what our recommendations are going to be genuine, and they're going to actually work for them. Yeah. And that's what I've always wanted for this place. And it's been a beautiful thing building it with you. And with my brother, honor, and now with you, Nina, and the rest of the crew.
No, I'm excited. I mean, we've got a big crew. I mean, the hope is that everyone gets an opportunity, multiple opportunities to kind of sit here and introduce themselves and talk about their journey. This is, I feel like, the first time the Garden Medical Spa has had such a great group of providers, estheticians, and medical wellness staff that I think is like, that's what gets me so excited. We've talked about in the past, you can just feel when there's this like catalyst to like huge growth and new things. And I feel like we're at that point at the Garden Medical Spa where, the next year to 5 years is going to be amazing for where we go and what we do. Yeah. We're always, like I said, on the forefront of innovation and incorporating new things. We've got talks coming up where we're leading, the industry across the country, across the world. We
have a cadaver lab.
Cadaver labs.
That's going to be a lot of fun.
Learning.
Yeah, we were able to score that, like a private cadaver lab. That's pretty sweet. Yeah. I'm super excited. The crew is pretty excited about it too.
It's just, it's the commitment to the craft. And, new locations coming. I know your father and everyone is committed to expanding the Garden Medical Spa, right? And, we're fortunate to have the opportunity to do those things.
Yeah, man.
So, I make the joke, you can plant a garden anywhere. And we are definitely doing that.
Yeah, baby. That's right. That's great.
Yeah.
Well, that's good, man.
All right, cool. Any final thoughts or anything that you think we left out? I know we probably chatted for a little while, but it's such a beautiful story. And I think it's something, I mean, some of our clients know it that have been around a long time.
Yeah, they do.
The Garden OGs, but a lot of people don't, right? And I think, if we can create some humanity and the consumer can get to know us and why we do what we do, I think it, it starts to change what people think about the industry. So this is, I think, a good.
I agree with you, Travis. That's actually very true. Very true. Well, thanks for doing this with us. Thank you, Nina, for joining us on this podcast.
Thanks for having me.
Beautiful. Thanks, guys.
Till next time, ladies and gents.
All right. We'll see you guys tomorrow in the office.
There you go.